Hi, good afternoon, everybody. We'll be starting in about a minute or so, but we're just giving a couple of other people some time to join, if that's okay.
Hopefully everyone's tech's working. We can see just a couple of people might be waiting for audio and things like that, so we'll just give it a moment. Grand. Well, hi everybody, welcome. My name's Frances Arnold. I'm creative producer with Borderlands. And this is Sharda.
Hi everyone, good afternoon, and thank you for your interest in Borderlands and this commission. I'm Shahida Khan, and I'm the director for Borderlands Creative People and Places.
So what we're going to do today, as shared, just to give you a little synopsis, we do have a presentation for you. So Sharda will kick us off and explain the context of Borderlands and obviously being part of a Creative People and Places programme. And then we'll go on to outline information that we've been sharing in the brief and that hopefully some people have already seen in a tendering document. And then we'll take a few questions at the end. Just to highlight, the way we work means that we share all of our answers to questions with every interested applicant. And you've probably noticed we're already recording today's session as part of that process. And obviously it means anyone not joining us today can see it at a future date, as well as you obviously be able to watch it back. We haven't had any questions up front from anybody, but as I say, hopefully by the time we get to the end of our presentation, if you do have something you want to ask us in this forum, please do feel free. So I'll just start sharing a screen, just give us a moment, and then we'll be able to kick off with Sharda's introduction.
Right. Apologies in advance for anybody who is quite up to speed with Creative People and Places, but for those of you who aren't, we're one of 39 similar projects around the country who have been funded by Arts Council England to work in places and spaces where local communities are the least likely to engage with creativity, art and culture. This is based on an annual survey which takes place, and Borderlands covers Middlesbrough and Redcar and Cleveland. We are currently hosted by Teesside University with an independent consortium, which is made up of Middlesbrough Football Club Foundation, who are the chair of the consortium. We have Tees Valley Nature Partnership, North Star Housing, Tees Valley Educational Academies Trust, as well as You've Got This, who are a Sports England funded sports and wellbeing project that also runs across Middlesbrough and Redcar and Cleveland. Again, as I said, very similar to kind of all the other CPPs, most of which were from the early days have informed the Arts Council's Let's Create strategy. And again, there's links both to CPP in general and Let's Create in the presentation for you to kind of look at later on at your leisure. And apologies because Fran and I are sharing a screen, so we might go in and out. Fran's just going to go into a little bit more detail about Middlesbrough and Redcar and Cleveland.
So I'm also just going to pause for a moment because I'm also managing everything back of house as well. So can everyone just bear with us while you've had that concept setting and you just digest things? I'm just going to take a moment to make sure everything back of house for this is nicely set up for you. Hi everyone, so let me just start screen sharing again for you. Thanks for bearing with us. So we just want to be able to take a moment to talk you through our place. So as creative people and places, we are funded work in specific areas of England, and we work within Middlesbrough, Redcar and Cleveland. So just to give you a little idea about kind of where we are in the UK, we are in the kind of southernmost part of the northeast of England, which means that to the south of us we're bordering Yorkshire, and to the north of us we have Stockton-on-Tees. And the statistics there around our populations within Middlesbrough and Redcar and Cleveland are to give you an idea, not just of obviously what's in the brief about our combined South Tees population, but actually to identify that we do have quite a similar sized population across both our boroughs. But we do, as I'll go on to say, have quite different geographies and demographics within our areas. So as you can see, Middlesbrough, 82.5% of our population is white British, while 10.5% are Asian and 3% Black. In Redcar and Cleveland, that is quite significantly different. We have 97.7% of our population as white British. In terms of that geography then, just for anyone who's not in the area, to give you an idea of this, Middlesbrough borders the south bank of the River Tees. We're an urban area with popular parks, community hubs and a really busy town centre. Redcar and Cleveland's quite different. It borders the mouth of the River Tees and Middlesbrough with communities like Grangetown. Then it's a largely urban, rural area, so that combination that comes through heritage as well as the geography. So we have a lot of villages and small towns. We're running along the coast of the North Sea from Redcar down to Staithes, which is dotted with villages south of that largest town in the area, which is Redcar. Each borough has a lot in common, so we do have a really strong sense of community and a really rich industrial and cultural heritage in both our areas. A very strong cultural sector, which is well supported by a number of organisations, including those within our our consortium, which includes Tees Valley Combined Authority, Redcar and Cleveland Borough Council and Middlesbrough Borough Council. We have shared barriers to arts engagement. It is outlined in the brief, and it just to reiterate though that those key things are around poor transport links. That is particularly within Redcar and Cleveland, as you can imagine from the geography of that. Cost of living, hyper-local communities, poor health or caring responsibilities. And to give you an overview of the brief, which is the exciting part of why you're all here, I'm sure. So Borderlands are seeking proposals from arts organisations, companies and collectives to develop and deliver 2 ambitious mass participatory projects. So that's in Middlesbrough and in Redcar and Cleveland. And just to clarify, just our language, sometimes we refer it to both areas together as South Tees, but just to be really clear, we are looking for 1 project in Middlesbrough and 1 project in Redcar and Cleveland. And the timings for that are between November 2023 and September 2024. Our ambition is to involve South Tees communities in the co-creation and co-production of these 2 new cultural experiences, engaging a minimum of 10,000 people per borough in each project. We're commissioning 1 in Middlesbrough, 1 in Redcar and Cleveland, which is in response to the shared thematic interests of the area, but also we acknowledge those geographical differences and all the consequences of that for a project of this scale. We are looking for artistically ambitious proposals that support communities to do a few things, in particular, to tell their stories, to raise artistic ambition and to celebrate the very varied community assets. Proposals are going to enable people to take part in 3 key ways. So that's as participants, getting involved in making decisions and attending as audiences. We are seeking creative ideas that are high quality, that are engaging, they're accessible, but we are looking for things that will challenge, that will give us a thought-provoking experience. And our community consultation across the 2 areas has identified some really important features we're really excited to see in people's responses to the brief. So that's outdoor locations or nature. That could be as locations or it could be as inspiration. Intergenerational creative activities, live and interactive, or even just that broad term of participatory creative experiences, digital art, and then celebrating community assets. And by that, we've tried to give an idea of what we mean. So it could be people's lived experiences, and it could also be the infrastructure of the areas. So in Middlesbrough, the communities are particularly interested in proposals that enable residents to connect with nature and to situate experiences in outdoor public places. In Redcar and Cleveland, communities are really looking for something that responds to that geographical context that hopefully, like we've shed a bit more light on already. So it's that very spread out, semi-rural, urban, poor transport links. And the way that we're looking at how to overcome that with communities is utilising that range of community assets, particularly the infrastructure, the buildings, outdoor spaces, and also that ability to connect people from across the area. And that does mean then that across the two projects, we're looking for that really hyper-local focus that also is in response to maybe national or global issues or themes or influences in terms of the creativity or the kind of concepts that are going on. And then I've jumped forward, haven't I? The other thing to talk to you about is our themes. So just to say that there is quite a lot of detail of what we mean by these themes in the brief. So please do go and have a look at that, and do ask any questions after this if you don't feel that's clear. Just to say, we are looking for responses to 2 of those themes in applications, please. So that's families and young people, environment, heritage, connecting isolated communities, and radical imaginations. And then in terms of participation in the audience, I've just tried to clarify this. So what you've read in the brief, hopefully what I can say now just puts it into those 2 contexts for you, participation and audience. So we are looking for direct participation from 500 people per borough, and that's in creative and production decisions. So that could be anything from creative workshops, co-production activity, event planning. There's such a range of things there. We are really open to what that means. And then participation opportunities for a minimum of 10 community groups per borough, which again, we're looking to be reflective of each area in who makes up those community groups. And then in terms of audience, there's 2 key things to bear in mind. We are testing the viability of 2 mid-sized community events. Now that could be in 3 different ways, just to try and make that brief really clear for everybody. That could be establishing 2 completely new events. It could be working with 2 existing events that really does respond to the local infrastructure and networks that we've got in the area. Or it could be a mix of those 2, so 1 from each. In terms of sort of scale, when you're thinking about how many people we're looking to engage, that's approximately 3,000 people at each event within each borough. So just to clarify that, it means that in 1 application to 1 area, it's 2 mid-sized events, each of them for approximately 3,000 people. And then mass participation, which obviously is the primary focus of our brief, where we're looking at the inclusion of a major mass participation event for a minimum audience of 10,000 people per borough. Timescales. So have I jumped forward again? No, it's all. So the timescales will be delivered. We're looking for November 2023 to September 2024. And there's a couple of reasons for this. Hopefully you've had a chance to read the clarification questions I've sent through. If you've already signed up for this, anyone watching in future, you will get access to that. I've just tried to explain it here in a way that makes some sense for you. We have funding until March 2025 from Arts Council England. We also have an existing programme that we are committed to. Obviously, we're a first phase CPP, so that is a significantly sized programme. And we also have commitment from Borderland staff to support the legacy that results from these 2 commissions, and that therefore needs to happen after the evaluation of this project and before March 2025. So there's quite a few reasons for us for that timescale. In your proposal, again, just to outline what is in the brief, please could you ensure that that rough timeline, obviously things change, is including consultation or R&D, planning and administration across your work, co-creation and co-production of new work, the presentation opportunities, quarterly meetings with key stakeholders, marketing, evaluation and data, and legacy. And then just to explain a bit about the kind of background for this, our small team are largely part-time, and just to highlight that the programme team, which is myself and 2 community engagement coordinators, are 3 days a week. We're also hosted by Teesside University, so working within that context means that there's quite a lot of work for us to do with both of the successful applicants to these commissions in advance of actually being able to start that practical work together. So please just bear in mind that we therefore don't expect to begin working with communities until December 2023 at the earliest. We will hold time in our diaries in late November for initial meetings between Borderlands staff and the successful applicants, enabling members of the co-commissioning panel to join us too. So there won't be a huge gap, but we're just trying to be honest and structure this in gradually to mean that everybody gets the best out of this. So our budget, the total fee is 150,000 per commission. What we just really want to reiterate that's in that brief is that is excluding VAT. Please make one application per area. So that's either Middlesbrough or it's Redcar and Cleveland. And the things that we're looking for you to include in that budget are fees, materials, production, access, documentation, marketing, evaluation, and of course, if it's relevant to you, please include travel and accommodation costs. We will work collaboratively with the successful applicants to deliver the projects. So just to explain our team, we have our director and myself, creative producer. We have a project administrator, an operations manager and 2 community engagement coordinators. We also have freelance support, and that is particularly relevant for you around marketing and evaluation. So that is why in the brief it explains that we will be offering support from our staff in terms of marketing, evaluation and community engagement during the project. And we will work jointly to plan that legacy work into delivery phase. To just be really clear, it is Borderlands who will lead on the legacy work that results from the commissions. Again, going back to why the timescale is what it is for this. If you are considering applying but you are based outside the northeast of England, we really do mean what we said in the brief. Please bring your expertise. We are welcome to work in a hybrid way, so combining video calls with in-person visits. We are particularly interested in where you're creating opportunities to involve local freelancers and partners. So that will be something to just highlight for you in terms of meeting that criteria within our applications. We are also testing people's willingness to pay, and this is part of our funding commitments with Arts Council. It means that we might include things like ticketing or things like pay what you feel and other alternatives to that formal process for people. We will work with the successful applicants and our communities to jointly find an agreed way forward for this project. So roles and responsibilities. Rather than kind of reiterate what's on the brief, we just want to share a bit about the background to why we've done that in the brief and what it means in practice for you. So as a CPP, Borderlands do work a little bit differently. We commission and support arts projects that meet our objectives and therefore enable us to report to Arts Council England on how that funding is benefiting people from South Tees to take part and make decisions in arts activity. We are really collaborative in our approach, so we will work with and support commissioned arts organisations to deliver these projects, and in return we are expecting an open and regular dialogue with successful applicants throughout project delivery. And we take that very similar, open, supportive, really responsive approach with working with our communities too, enabling them to make decisions and steer the projects. Our staff also have specific skills and knowledge, as well as key roles which will enable communities to really get the most out of projects. We hope that anyone working with us will also feel the benefits that as a successful applicant, we are helping you to respond to the particular needs of our area and our community, but also to the kind of subtle nuances of working with a CPP. We welcome adaptations during projects, and we don't expect what you write on the tin to be literally what you have to deliver. And that is because we're looking for how you can respond to our knowledge, obviously your experiences and our community's voices to manage the delivery of projects. And this approach is really reinforced by Arts Council England. CPPs have been funded as action research projects, so we're interested in what works, we're also interested in what doesn't, and we will always be talking about why. It does practically mean there's quite a lot of evaluation, but I hope that in practice this really gives you an idea of why, one of the many reasons we are a little bit different as a CPP. And of course, one of the big outputs from our whole programme is that the learning through these commissions will be being shared with others in the sector. So the other reason for us explaining in the brief the roles and responsibilities in quite a lot of detail, which you might not normally expect to see on a brief, is we really want to demystify the way that Borderlands work, and we hope that we're really clear from the outset about what we expect of successful applicants. In terms of experience, I just want to really highlight the 3 key bullet points that are in that brief of the experience we're looking for from applicants. So that's co-creating and co-producing artistically ambitious mass participatory projects in unusual locations. It's delivering large scale or a series of events for audiences, and it's working collaboratively with multiple stakeholders to realise projects. So that could include arts, voluntary and or public sector, community groups, commissioners. There's obviously such a range of ways that can work for anybody in any given project. And then the formal things. So the application process, which I hope is as clear as we can make it in the brief. So rather than go into loads of detail about it for you, we're just picking out some key things in this presentation. So please email us to receive a tendering document. Once you email Borderlands inquiries at tees.ac.uk, we can then respond to you by sharing that tendering document. And that is the document you need to complete, please, to be able to submit for us to consider your application. The deadline for that is 5 p.m. on the 20th of September. Again, our brief has made clear we cannot accept applications after that date and time. Please, if anything, give yourself more than the 20th of September to apply. We'd love to see things in the inbox before then and know that we've, it's all there. In terms of how to apply, we are trying to find some accessible forms of application. We appreciate the tendering document you'll receive is only a written form, so you can apply to us as written documents. You can also send us audio or video. If you want to send audio or video, please email us with WeTransfer links. Just the scale of those proposals, any imagery, links, video, etc. It's just so big. So that would be a huge help. Thank you. We'd really appreciate that. And then we just want to highlight that there are a set of evaluation criteria that are outlined in the tendering document. If after this briefing you are still interested in applying but haven't contacted us for that document, please do, and we'll get it to you as soon as possible so you can familiarise yourself with those criteria. This is split into 2 sections, quality and price, and I will go on next to talk about that in a little bit more detail. And then just to highlight that we have dates for the interviews as well. So that's the 17th and 18th of October. So to lead us into that shortlisting and interview process, we are assessing proposals based on quality and price. Now that's split into a weighting system. Again, this is because we are part of Teesside University and we're working within those procurement guidelines. So quality is 70% of the application and we're assessing price at 30% of your application. To break down quality, we're looking at 3 things. So that's the extent to which the concept and approach meets the brief and Borderlands aims, the extent to which the applicant's experience meets the brief, and how realistic the timeline is in relation to the brief. And then in terms of price, it's quite straightforward. It is value for money. And we make all of this crystal clear on the tendering document. So please do take a look at it. Proposals can be based on new concepts. That's really exciting to us. Please tell us. Equally, if you have something existing, but you know that it is adaptable, you really know it can be built on, perhaps it's something you've trialed, but all of that, they are both welcome. But with the latter, in terms of adapting or building existing work, please really think about how it can be tailored and really relevant to the brief. In terms of the co-commissioning panel, who'll be assessing at shortlisting and interview, there's 3 key stakeholder groups just to make you aware of. So there are Borderlands staff, there are a range of community representatives from across our boroughs, and there was also a consortium member. And then again, in terms of accessibility, we are offering hybrid interviews. So that can be in person, it's also available on Teams. And as making the interviews more accessible, we will be upfront about the questions that we're going to ask and what we'll discuss. So you will also, of course, be given the opportunity to ask questions at interview if you do want to. Well, haven't we done well on time? So leading us on to the questions, I hope I haven't gone too fast there. I don't think Sharda did. I had more to, hopefully I didn't rattle off to you too quick. We just have a bit more time, and we're very would love to hear questions, especially if something we've said today has sparked that for you. Just to say, we are of course recording the meeting, so that recording will go to all interested applicants. So that's at any stage before the 20th of September. That includes yourselves. It also includes anyone who'd signed up or registered their interest with us, and anyone in future. We also will respond to all questions outside of this briefing in written form. So everybody who expresses an interest in the brief will get those questions and answers back. So I hope everybody here has already seen an email from us that clarifies there's already been 2 questions and we've answered both of those. If you haven't read them, please do go. I have included in the presentation a synopsis of those 2 things, so hopefully it's doubly clear for you. We will repeat that process. So every time someone asks a question in written form with us, you will be updated automatically with the question and answer. Again, obviously, if we can't answer a question today, or there aren't any, and you don't want to go down that route with us, which is fine, then please do get in touch with us. Or if there are questions we can't answer, we will follow up with you next week, again, as per the process I've just described. We have quite a lot of time available. Sharda and I can be here until 4 if you would like us to be, but I would suggest we probably look at trying to take the next 10 minutes or so just to field questions, and we'll go from there in terms of whether to continue beyond 20 to 4 with everybody. So I hope that's been helpful from Sharda and I. I'll stop sharing. Hopefully you've registered the email address from that presentation. And yeah, please feel free. You are all automatically obviously on mute, but if anyone has a question, please do say, or pop it in the chat if that feels more comfortable, and I'll make sure that we have an eye on the chat as well. Hi, Daniel.
Hello, thanks for that. That was.
Oh, we haven't quite caught up with your audio yet. It says you're off mute, Daniel, but we can't quite hear you yet.
Okay, can you hear me yet?
No. Do you want to just try again? The classic computer thing, turn it off and on again type of thing. Put yourself on mute and back on again.
How's that?
No. Do you want to pop it in the chat, Daniel? We don't want to miss your question.
I'll pop it in the chat, or I've got some colleagues next door. I'll see what they're doing.
I can hear him.
Thanks, Daniel. Would anyone else like to? Oh, you can hear him. Okay, so it's our system. So welcome to working in our, yeah, we are. Yeah, we're completely connected online. How strange.
Well, so look, I'll ask a question to everybody else. No, I won't. I'll put it in the chat because, yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Looking at everything behind the scenes, Daniel, just to see if we can. There's nothing obvious I can see about why we're not. Well, thanks, Aubrey, for letting us know. Again, Daniel, I'm sorry, just whatever's going on with our system and my lack of Zoom technical skills. Could you pop it in the chat? Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. Would anyone else like to test our Zoom? We'd love to hear from people.
Can you unmute everybody?
Yeah. So I'm just going to ask to unmute everybody. Obviously, if you really don't want to, that's fine, but it might just be a way to test whether this is our... Well, the chat function might be the best way to go if everyone feels comfortable with popping something in there. Once you have done, Daniel, could you just give me a heads up by coming back on and letting me know you've added it? Because again, I've seen Abraze. Okay, again, that's not come up for us. I feel like we're having the technical...
Hang on, I haven't put it in yet, but I will do.
Give us a moment, everybody. Thank you. Oh, here we go. Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you. So I'm catching up here. So I'll get started with us answering a question that's come straight away that we can already see on the chat while we wait to hear from you and others, Daniel. So the question we have is there a preference for bids from local people and groups? Do you want me to take that one? So in terms of a direct answer, there is no preference. That's not what we're trying to communicate. I hope that hasn't come across. We are open to applications from anybody. What I hope we're trying to explain when I was talking about ways that people outside the Northeast could work with us is obviously we do have a pool of talent and we have a very rich and strong cultural sector around Teesside and including our two boroughs. So in terms of that national picture, we're really looking for ways in which people are bringing their expertise but also engaging in that local that kind of cultural infrastructure and all of those assets, and obviously the knowledge that we have across our team within our communities as well. The other way on, I suppose, is you can be as hyper local to our area as you are. Like, we'd love to hear from people who are literally in Middlesbrough and Redcar and Cleveland and anything in between that. So a couple more questions have come up. And we've got, are there specific existing festivals or events that you're interested in linking this commission to through the community engagement events? Do you want to take that first?
Happy for no, right now we don't have any. I mean, there's lots of events and festivals that we are already separately linking to, but more than open to if there was something that came back that said, oh, well, we've got this idea and it can link in, that's all and good. But right now we don't have any preferences in terms or kind of, identify a particular event throughout the year. This is very much open to whatever people come back with.
And I think to add to that as a kind of the creative programme side of it, we haven't specified who, other than explaining our key kind of themes. And a lot of the events in the area that might be relevant to this brief often have a very specific focus, and we're not trying to say that we are only working with a particular community within our areas, and that can be led by your creative interests, for example, or by the consultation or community links that you want to form through the project. And then we have another question, a couple of thoughts. So we've got a couple of thoughts or comment. Realistically, this needs to be spring-summer event as there is unlikely to be time to do something this winter. There are a list of existing events in the area.
Is there a list
of existing events in the two areas that the mass participation event could be part of? So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Shada, what we're trying to communicate is we're looking for something new with the mass participation event. We fully appreciate that in terms of two mid-sized events, you may well want to connect with existing events, either to do both or one of them. What we're looking for that mass participation project, engaging at least 10,000 people in each borough, is to do something new at that scale. So I'm sure there are a list of events that you might be interested in, but we're not trying to connect the audience participation from these commissions into those existing events. I think, there are differences in Redcar and Cleveland to Middlesbrough in terms of the activities at that scale that are currently happening. And if that's a separate kind of bit of research or something you think collectively would be useful for us to pinpoint, like signpost people to do, then, there might be time for us to make that clearer.
You still can't hear. Can you hear?
Still can't hear you, Daniel.
I am so sorry that this clearly appears to be our technical issue, Daniel, and others. I think we're going to have to keep going through the chat. I don't know why this has happened. I will make sure it doesn't happen in future. So I'm very sorry, Daniel. So for clarification, we had another question. When you say two mid-scale, is that 2 in total, i.e. 1 in Redcar and Cleveland and Middlesbrough, or 2 each in each locality? The latter. So I hope what we've made clear in the brief, but I will just say it as clearly as I can now, is that we are looking for 2 mid-sized, mid-scale events in each borough. And just remember that coupled with that, we're looking for an application from you to 1 of those boroughs. Please do, again, put in chat if that hasn't then made that any clearer. And I hope we've both answered those other questions clearly. Daniel, it maybe by the sounds of you trying to jump on and us chat, which would be a better way to do this. There might be a few more queries it's raised. Please, everybody, keep adding to the chat and we will do our best to answer. No, we've had some clarification questions. I'm just looking through the chat. We've had some clarification questions there, you know, obviously from yourselves today, and also prior to this, which I have shared on the document with everybody who had signed up to this briefing, because it seems that has been a little unclear from us. So again, I fully understand that it is maybe it feels slightly unusual, or we're not being clear enough in our description. I do apologise if that's the case. Hopefully we've been clear now. It's about audience participation side of what we're looking for in the commissions is 1 application, big picture, 1 application to either borough. So it's either Middlesbrough or it's Redcar and Cleveland in your application. And then the audience is 2 mid-sized events and a mass participation event.
Sorry, just to add, there's nothing to stop one organisation putting in 2 bids. So you could put in a bid for Middlesbrough and a bid for Redcar and Cleveland. I am right in saying that, aren't I? Or have I just confused things? It was only because I think this was the advice from procurement in order to kind of go through each application, they would have to judge it per 1 area rather than 1 large to cover both. I know it's slightly confusing, but we're just following the guidance that we've been issued.
So we have another question. Are there preferences in terms of locations in each borough, and will Borderlands help in securing a site? So if I start with the first one, again, I think just to go to that big picture, we're not articulating exact communities of specific kind of protected characteristics or communities of interest. So we're also therefore not sort of pinpointing particular locations within the 2 boroughs, because we are open to your ideas, and we know that if we kind of make that a very specific focus, we could limit the creativity that comes back at this stage, and for these commissions that we want to leave it open. In terms of will Borderlands help in securing a site, part of our role will be in that collaborative collaborative engagement with you. So with successful applicants, we know, obviously with kind of people connected to our consortium, that there are roles in other organisations, particularly within the council, could be within the combined authority or within our consortium, where they can play a part in enabling, securing and the logistics around use of external sites. Particularly, for example, Middlesbrough, if we're looking at that open outdoor area. So we would broker those connections and stay involved to the extent that it would be apparent we're needed into kind of going into those site kind of led conversations. So we also have a kind of couple of comments, which I'm really happy to read out. Thank you for sharing them. We'll try and respond to them in a way that's kind of giving an answer to a question that I think is being implied. So 2 mid-scale events and 1 large-scale event for 150k is a huge ask. The cost of production alone on these is at least half the budget. In terms of trying to think about how we can reply to that as a question, I really appreciate you want to make that comment, and it is public for everyone. You know, that's understandable. We hope we're being honest about the phase that we're in as a CPP, and we also hope we're being honest in that we are part of that CPP network, and there are others who are working in a similar way. We fully appreciate you might want to make an application that demonstrates what you think you could achieve for that budget, and what we can do is score that on the evaluation criteria, again, which is outlined in the tendering document, and I hope really makes it clear that there are particular weightings and there's a scoring system there. So to clarify the maths, we're looking to engage 16,000 audiences through 2 mid-sized events and 1 large-scale mass participation event. Yeah, that is the correct maths. And then we can introduce ourselves. Even if you can't hear us, it might be there's some mutual partnerships from within the group. It's a really lovely suggestion. I mean, it's absolutely up to you. We have a bit longer. We're happy to stay until 4. So if that's something that is useful to broker some kind of collaborative approaches to these commissions, please go ahead and use the chat. You know, it's there for us to try and make this commission as accessible to apply to, but also, you know, the most interesting, exciting proposals you want to put forward to us.
Yeah. Just for further information, we will go back if there is a difference in terms of procurement, advising that you can apply for both via one application. We'll check and email everybody just in case I've made a boo-boo. I just remember a conversation with procurement
We've had
around that, but we'll make sure that everybody's aware of that ASAP.
And we've had another question, which is really pertinent actually. Can digital audiences account for some of those numbers in terms of the total audience number? Yes, absolutely. If we haven't made that clear on the brief, it's certainly a question that we'd probably like to highlight back to everybody. I think that's really pertinent given some of the other questions and comments we've had. Again, going back to Arts Council England, and feel free, Sharon, if I just say something quick to add to it. Digital engagement is an important part of what we're testing through CPPs. So there might be some really creative ways to do that. And, you know, we have moved on as a result of lots of kind of technical improvements, despite clearly our lack of sound.
No, I don't know what's happening with it. I mean, just to add, I think Fran has alluded to it on a couple of occasions throughout this session, the difference between CPP and especially a CPP, which is in the first phase. A lot of our emphasis is on the community kind of involvement and their kind of input being built into whatever happened, and that's why we've kind of invested in some time and resource capacity to the legacy. So it's not just about one big flash in the pan, as amazing as that flash in the pan event is. It's very much about our communities being heard and seen, and their voices and their stories being taken forward.
So just while people are taking a moment to introduce themselves on the chat, or if there are other questions that you kind of want to pose to us, just to say, just in the background, there's just another 1 or 2 people. One person's just joined us. Hi. So just to update you, we just have a couple of sound issues, so we can't hear anybody, and we're just asking if everyone can just pop themselves on mute. Robbie, it's really nice of you to join us. The session's being recorded and it will be shared. Just to highlight for you, Robbie, the session will be shared publicly with anybody who's interested in applying. So that hopefully means you can re-watch the recording. We've shared quite a lot of information, Robbie, already about the brief, and we're just in that kind of questions and answers phase. So Robbie, because we're having a couple of issues with our sound, if you do have questions for us, please could you pop them in the chat, and we'd be really happy to answer them. We are going to stay until 4. And the other thing that is happening is just in the chat, if you want to introduce who you are in your company to others in the group, particularly if you're looking for any collaborations in terms of making the proposal to these projects, you are very welcome to pop an introduction in the chat, and do have a look there. A couple of people have introduced themselves already.
I want to read out what people are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So just again, maybe for the benefit of the recording as well, the couple of introductions we've had. So hi, I'm Daniel from www.eea.org.uk. I'm going to make an assumption that means Emergency Exit Arts. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And whilst we know some local partners, always keen to meet more and speak with people who think we might make a good partner. Thank you for adding that. And then we have Abre Atta. Hi, folks. I'm an artist. Thanks, Daniel. I'm an artist and architect heading up Common Good Projects, which focuses on community-based artworks. Thank you for sharing that. And Robbie, hi, thank you. So you've just popped on saying hello. Oh, okay. Somebody's already representing you. Fantastic. Oh, thank you. Lorna's here. So hi to everybody. Appreciate that. Would anyone else like to ask any questions, or are there any further comments?
And apologies again for the technical hitches.
Didn't expect this.
And just to say, if anybody is having any issues in terms of not being able to speak or not use the chat, please ping us a message by email, and as Fran has said, we'll just make sure that that's shared with everyone.
We'll just give everyone a moment. Oh, hi, Damien. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. So hi, Damien says, one of the artistic directors for Periplum. Again, I hope I pronounced that right. So www.periplum, periplum.co.uk. Hello, everyone, known and unknown. I'm just checking we haven't missed any questions or introductions there. Oh, okay. Hi, Lorna. Thanks for sharing message. So this just says, Robbie and I, which is Lorna, are here from Southport Dance Company. Hi, Damien. Hi, Daniel. Communicating that if you've not already, and Rachel. And Abre. So there's clearly some potential collaborations here already. I hope that's useful for everyone. And someone's saying, Damien, I think saying, shall we contact you for any follow-up email questions? Yes, please. Just to clarify the reason for this, we are hosted by Teesside University, so we are working within Teesside University procurement policy. It does mean we can answer questions in a written format, and we are running this briefing, which obviously means there's something recorded there for everybody to look at as well. So please do email. It's borderlands-inquiries at tees.ac.uk. The details are on our website, but they're definitely on the brief.
Yeah, and just to add.
Okay, thanks, Lorna. I think there's a personal message about food. Thank you.
Yeah, still addicted, Lorna. Sorry, just to add, if there are any questions that anybody has which are potentially commercially sensitive, we won't be sharing the answers to everybody, but if there's anything in your question that we feel everybody else needs that information, we would share it. But if it is commercially sensitive, we won't. Just wanted to kind of put that out there as well.
Again, we'll just give everyone a few more minutes if you do have more questions. Appreciate there's quite a lot to take in. Thank you, Daniel. Good luck, he says, working within the university. Yes, so I guess to kind of bring that to who we are and what we do, we are obviously a temporary fixed term team that we don't have a fixed location, which is an incredible advantage for us in loads of ways, because it means we can work across what are ultimately geographically two really huge areas of the northeast around South Tees. And there are a lot of advantages to having a consortium, and that consortium happens to be hosted by Teesside University. Again, I hope in terms of how this relates to you as interested applicants, that we've made some changes with their support to try and make at least the application process more accessible. We also really want to be honest from the beginning about that time frame for engaging the successful applicants in contracting, all the paperwork, insurances, finances. So please, do take it as a positive that we know it can take time, but we're allowing for that. We're not expecting delivery immediately. And there's a couple more messages, just people making introductions to each other. Thanks. And please, yeah, do find ways to kind of keep in touch that work for you, especially if it is going to result in applications to us. We'd be delighted that as a result of this, there might be something that, you know, we've helped spark a connection. As I said, we are looking for applications from arts companies and organisations as well as collectives. We want it to be really broad. I hope those 3 terms have covered what you feel is relevant to you. We just also acknowledge that the scale that the project is at and the responsibilities of that lead do probably need a number of organisations or kind of staffing, freelance or employed, to work with us on that project. So we also just got another, so this is, hi, Rachel from Stella Projects. The chat wasn't working for me. Okay, another thing for us to go and look into. We will improve our technical. Honestly, working hybrid does have some advantages, but we have made more allowances for the challenges, haven't we? So hi from Rachel from Stella Projects to everybody. Thanks, Rachel, for finding a way that worked on chat for you. So I get the sense most people in the room have made introductions with each other or already know a majority of people in here, which is lovely. Might just be worth just doing one last ask, if that's okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, and apologies again for the tech issues, and thank you for your interest, and hopefully look forward to working with you all. I mean, if not on this commission, potentially at some other opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. We'll stop the recording now and say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us. You will receive the email with the link. Take care.